President Joe Biden's seeking to take control of the coronavirus pandemic response in the US on his first full day in office. He's signing off on a dozen executive orders, including a plan to vaccinate 100 million Americans in his first 100 days. Sky News Washington correspondent Annalise Nielsen joins us live now from DC. Annalise, good morning, good afternoon where you are. The pandemic response has, up until this point, been largely controlled by the states.
It has, Pete, and that's been one of the reasons it's been quite fractured in the response. And so this is the moment when President Joe Biden wants to have it centralised in the United States to try and have a more consistent rollout, especially when it comes to the coronavirus vaccine. Now, that figure of 100 million vaccinations in the first 100 days sounds like a lot, but it is quite modest when you're looking at a 2-dose vaccine. That means essentially he's aiming to have 50 million Americans inoculated in his first 100 days in a population of over 300 million. There's still plenty to go, but he's also already signed off on this mandate of masks in federal buildings. There's very little that they can control outside of that when it comes to implementing a mask mandate, but we've also seen some social media postings from the president saying that it's an important non-partisan issue to wear masks, and so we're seeing a very different tone from the top, which the Biden administration is hoping it trickles down. We're expecting any moment to have President Joe Biden speak about his plan and these 12 executive orders for the coronavirus pandemic. But Speaker Nancy Pelosi spoke about what's going to be further funding for personal protective equipment.
Today, he'll sign further orders. My understanding is to use the Defense Production Act to speed up PPE delivery, to expand testing, treatment, and public health workforce that we need, and launch a vaccination campaign. All of this to more safely open up schools and businesses, improve health equity.
And Annalise, Donald Trump has left office, but that hasn't stopped the Democrats from pursuing impeachment.
No, and the question is when these articles of impeachment will be sent to the Senate, because that will trigger the Senate trial, and that's going to be very interesting viewing for most Americans as well as all those members of Congress. So what Nancy Pelosi has said is that she's not specifying the timing yet. It seems like there are still issues around how they're going to hold these, how they're going to hold the trial. And one of the really things that makes this really interesting compared to Donald Trump's last impeachment is the greater control that the Democrats now have in the Senate. That means they get to set the rules of how this trial will play out. So expect a quick trial, expect it to be very public, but Nancy Pelosi says she won't be pinned on the timing just yet.
So many members felt their lives threatened. The uncertainty of it all contributed to the trauma. This is something that everyone in the country should take a measure of how they reacted to this. But I just all pray for the resilience that our country is famous for and that our people need to have.
Speaker Pelosi will determine when she will send the articles over. Leader McConnell and I are trying to come up with a bipartisan agreement on how to conduct the trial, but make no mistake about it, there will be a trial, there will be a vote.
Now, Pete, one of the really interesting things, too, to see from the Biden administration in the first 24 hours is they're doing much more online. They've received virtual briefings today, and we're expecting more of that from Joe Biden, especially as the coronavirus pandemic becomes such a focal point. This week, the number of deaths from COVID-19 ticked over 400,000 in the United States.
Yeah, up there with the death toll from World War II so far. Annalise Nielsen, thank you. We'll talk to you again next hour.